Hello! Gold star for you if you know what movie that's from. Welcome back to my tiny kitchen. I am Quintana, and today I'm gonna make one of my favorite summer salads. It's so delicious. It is easy, but it takes a while because there's a slow roasting process, but it makes your home smell so delicious. It's so wonderful. And I actually got it from a People magazine food recipe, and I've kind of like tweaked it and made it my own, but it's so easy and so delicious. And it's a couscous salad with roasted tomatoes and onions and some herbs and cheese and deliciousness. So without further ado, let's get started. So I decided to do this recipe a little bit differently in that I'm going to do it in steps. And for this first step, you're going to preheat your oven to 250 and line a baking sheet with parchment paper. And these are the ingredients that you're going to need for your first step. A pint of tomatoes. It can be cherry tomatoes, mini heirloom tomatoes, whatever type of small tomatoes that you like. No wrong answers. And a red onion. You're also going to need olive oil and salt and pepper. So what we're going to do, we're going to have these. We're going to cut this onion. It doesn't have to be perfectly cut. You can cut them in quarters. You can cut them however big you want your onion slices. There are no wrong answers. So let's get started doing that. All right, I have my little tomato cutting knife. I've noticed that when I use my regular knife, it doesn't cut the tomatoes as easily, but when I use this lovely serrated, sharp serrated knife, it cuts the tomatoes so wonderfully and easily. So let's get to having these tomatoes that are washed and rinsed and clean. Let's do it. And then just toss them on your parchment sheet lined baking sheet. Parchment paper lined baking sheet. There we go. All right, we got the tomatoes done, and now we're just gonna cut our onion. Just slice the ends off. Set those aside. Okay, so what I like to do before I put them on the baking sheet is separate them. So you get you get all the delicious onion. So yeah, you just separate it and then toss it onto the baking sheet with the tomatoes. How beautiful this is. Also, I'm not crying, you're crying. Those onions were a little intense. So now we're going to season it with salt. Again, kosher salt. I love salt, so, you know, I use a lot. And it brings out the juices of the tomatoes. And some pepper. This is my grandma's pepper grinder. Isn't it cute? All of this is to taste, you guys. And then we're going to take some olive oil and drizzle the olive oil, good couple lugs. And then this is the fun part. Just mix it all with your hands, get everything covered with olive oil and salt and pepper and deliciousness. Ooh, isn't it so pretty? And then we are going to pop this into the oven for, let's say, an hour and a half. We'll check it after an hour and a half. And then if it needs more time, we can give it more time. But it's better to add than to take away. That's what they say in cooking, right? You can always add, you can't take away. So we will pop this in the oven for an hour and a half. And then we'll move on to step 2. So the tomatoes and onions have been slow roasting now for about 40 minutes, so I'm going to move on to the second step, which is cooking the couscous. And the type of couscous we're going to use is the Israeli or pearl couscous. It's probably my favorite kind because it's kind of like, it's tiny, it's kind of like pasta in texture. And I like the tricolor just because it's pretty. So you're going to use 2.5 cups of the couscous. And when you're measuring dry ingredients, please make sure you're using a dry ingredient measuring cup. So that's 2.5 cups. What we're going to do, I have 3 cups of chicken broth on the stove coming to a boil, and you can use whatever kind of broth. You kind of want it to be a little bit lighter because this is a lighter recipe. So I like my chicken broth. You can also use veggie broth. You can use water if you want, but when you use broth, it adds a little bit more flavor. So we're going to add this to the chicken broth. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to let it simmer for 6 minutes, and then and make sure you stir uncovered. And after it's been about 6 minutes, you're going to take it off the heat, cover it for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to spread it out on another parchment-lined baking sheet, and we're going to let it cool. Okay, so my couscous is done cooking. There should be like no water coming out, no liquid. If there is, just let it sit for a little bit longer. But now we're going to empty it out onto the parchment-lined baking sheet, like so. And then just spread it out. Kind of try to do it as even as you can. And then we're just going to set it aside and let it cool while we move on to the next step. Okay, third step. We are prepping the rest of the ingredients to add to our delicious couscous salad. Right here we have 1 cup of parsley and a 1/2 cup each of mint and basil-ish, you know, whatever, use whatever you like to your taste. What am I going to come and arrest you for not using the right amounts? But so yeah, we have our parsley, basil, and mint. Have a cup of pitted Kalamata olives. I buy them already sliced because why not? And this is lemon juice. Use a juice from 1 lemon, 2 lemons, however lemony you like it. I used the juice from 2 lemons, and then a 1/4 cup of olive oil. So while the onions and tomatoes are finishing roasting, you can go ahead and get all these items together. Okay, so my tomatoes and onions are roasted to perfection. My apartment smells so divine. My tiny kitchen is overwhelmed with delicious scents. So now we're going to, the good thing about roasting in parchment paper is you can kind of just empty its contents where it needs to go, and then set it aside. So we're going to add our onions and tomatoes. It looks so pretty. It smells so good, you guys. I wish you could smell this. Well, you will smell this when you make it. All right, so stir it up a little bit, and then add each of your ingredients, stir it up, and then we'll finish it off. And now for the perfect finishing touch. Some delicious feta cheese. I decided to go ahead and try the Mediterranean flavored. Basically, I had no choice, but you know, as much or as little as you'd like. Doesn't that look so Okay, now you know what time it is. I'm very excited. It's time for the taste test. Trying to get a little bit of everything. All right, here we go. Let's see how we did. It's seriously my favorite summer salad.
The roasted tomatoes and onions and the lemon and the feta and the herbs. Oh, it's so delicious, and I hope you guys make it.
And that's it. So easy, so delicious, super summery. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming back to my tiny kitchen. I hope you like, I hope you subscribe, I hope you're telling your friends. I love hearing and seeing about your tortilla making. That is amazing. If you make this salad, I'd love to see it. I'd love to hear about it. Jody and Dina, I hear you. Stuffed grape leaves are coming up, I promise. So I hope you all come back and see.